So it's been quite a good week, actually, programming wise. I've had a lot going on personally, and I feel also at my real job. So I haven't had as much time as I would have liked to just program. I think one of the challenges of building things on your own, on your free time, is that it's not about just finding an hour here or an hour there. I need, I think, larger blocks of time to really immerse myself in the work. It takes a little time to, get oriented, get into the headspace and get going. It's a little bit ironic, I think. I'm trying to build software that doesn't do time management, but that does, it's like glorified to-do list, keeping track of habits, making sure that I do what I do to reach the goals that I know I want to. And then I find myself having to balance working on all those other goals that are in my to-do list and then building this new version, this new tool for myself. It's just a fun little twist. I find myself sometimes wondering what the hell I'm doing. But I have made pretty good progress this week, and I've been trying out a new way of recording it, so a lot more code. And I thought I would do kind of a voiceover. We'll see how it turns out. I mean, you'll see later in this video. I'm not sure. I'm still experimenting, I think, week to week with just how to take this process that in my head is so engaging. I just love having these problems and working on them and seeing the kind of solutions I come up with and then realizing where I messed up and having to correct myself. I think that's so fun, and that's ultimately what I want to bring out here in these videos is to bring you along on that journey. But this week I want to try something new, and we'll see how it works out. So let's get into some code. One thing I often do is I leave myself a little bit of light work. So when I get back the next day, I can just solve something quickly and get a little bit of a dopamine rush. Here I had an update status function on the task. So if it's done or not done, that just wasn't working. And I figured here that I was just sending the current value again to the server. So I need to change my references. And as you can see, it works now. The next item on my list of things to do was I have a little progress bar that tells you how many of the tasks for the day you've gotten done. And this hadn't been updated since I changed around how the items are located on the server. Now, instead of being on the to-do list, they're in a separate collection on the user. This gives me more flexibility if I want to have items that appear on multiple lists at once, for example. So I need to pull those down and then sort them by status, which is what I'm doing here. So I can kind of calculate like how many of them are done and then render out a percentage of that as a to-do list. And each status has its own color, which I'm picking from the class. And as you can see here now, once this is updated, now that I update one of them to done, the progress actually changes. All right, the next thing on my list was the ability to change the item type. I only have two for now. A classic to-do and then a journal type. Now I know that I'll want to do more with more kind of item types in the future, but I'm not there yet. So I just have these very basic two to start with. Here I'm realizing that I've already built like the UA component for this. And as you can see, I've confirmed it here in the create task. I already had code for this. So I need to go back and do some refactoring, basically just take the code that was living inside the quick add row and then just pop it out into its own unique class so that I can reuse it. This is quite quick. I think it's always nice when you find that you already have code and then you can just refactor it, make sure that you can use it for several different places in your code base. It always makes me feel good, feel like I'm cleaning up and that I'm being efficient, right? And you don't want to rewrite the same functionality several times. So this I think was just nice, a very, very, very solid thing to do. Trying this here and you can see that it doesn't work. And now here I was a little bit scared or scarred from my previous issue with an update function. So I renamed this, even though that wasn't the issue. I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't like sending the same value again to the server. So the next step I think was to go into Firebase and just make sure like what is the value that I have on the server here. And you can see that when I do update it to a new value, it changes in Firebase. So I know that I'm updating it correctly. The issue then probably is that I'm not receiving it correctly. And then I did some, old school terminal debugging, just looking at the value. It wasn't correct. So I realized my from JSON function wasn't reflecting a change I've done earlier. I went back, I updated it, and now this works too. All right, so the final big change I wanted to do was the ability to change the name of one of the tasks once it's been added to the list. And I didn't really know how to do this. I've had a lot of, Flutter can be quite tricky if you have a lot of classes instantiated, which one it uses, and so on, like which one are you currently editing. So I thought I would do this by a provider and then keeping track of the ID of that particular text field on that specific item we were editing. So I tried to do that at the start here, and then just go into the item row, which is the row that keeps the type, the key, the name, and then also the status of it, and just add a little bit of a text field. And then also to see are we editing this one? If we are, then show a text field. If not, have a widget that when we press on it, we switch the focus to this one. So this was kind of a quick and easy one, but I knew that I disliked this from the start. I don't like having to manage IDs on my own for different scopes. I think this is something where I just felt like there has to be a better way to do this, but then I also wanted to get this done, so I kind of just went ahead with it. And you can see that this works kind of fine. I can click on a text field and it instantiates that text field, right? So this very basic functionality of just rendering a text field works fine. And then we need to update it, so I'm just writing the server function here and then adding this to the unchanged function that Flutter exposes on the text field. This ended up in some very wonky behavior. I kind of had a feeling it would do this. The value you're sending back, and then you need to listen to the server, and those two can kind of get a little bit glitchy in their communication sometimes. So like I said, I kind of knew that this wasn't going to work. But then I realized Flutter has an on tap outside that just dismisses focus, which seemed so much easier to me. So I haven't used this before, right? But I ended up playing around with this. And I also ended up giving each class a value key in its constructor that is just the ID of that item. So even though I am building a lot of the same items, the same classes from the items here, they should all be unique. And this worked much nicer. You can see here that I'm not using the provider anymore, so I don't have to manually track these IDs. This just works, and I just need to add a bunch of niceties. So we need to dispose this so we don't end up with memory losses when we switch in and out. I also need to update the server value when the value of the controller that controls this text field is updated. But this is much nicer. This just means that I can keep track of the value locally and then also know that I'm updating it on the server. And then last of all, I just wanted to show, I went through the app and I updated a theme. So now it looks more the way I want it to, right? I think it has this nice dark mode appearance if we're just focusing on the to-do list here. And I also added in a very basic implementation locally only of a text editor that I've been working on the side. That was the progress for this week. And honestly, these feel like pretty big steps for me. So quite happy, and I hope you enjoyed this. why a to-do list? What's the benefit? What makes a good to-do list? I've been pretty religious with my own to-do list for the last 9 months now. My experience has been really good. Obviously, that's why I'm doing this project. But then I just wanted to ask myself the question and do a little bit of research. What makes a good to-do list for other people, not just me, right? So the benefits primarily of a to-do list, number one, it lets you brain dump. So you have a lot of things in your mind that you need to do. You can just put them somewhere, kind of forget about them until it's time to actually do them. And you don't have to worry about forgetting them. And you don't have to carry them around in your big, amazing head all day. The second really good thing about a to-do list is that on a subconscious level, your brain kind of commits to doing something, right? So if you write, tomorrow I'm gonna clean my kitchen, and that's the only thing on your to-do list, you're probably more likely to actually clean your kitchen than if you just thought about it the day before, and then, the next day comes and goes, and at the end of it, you're just saying to yourself, oh, I should have cleaned my kitchen. Writing it down creates intention in your mind, and even if you don't really believe it, subconsciously, your brain will pick that up and say, this is something we're doing tomorrow. This is a goal we're doing tomorrow. And it will kind of nudge you and make it a little bit easier to do, right? This brain dumping has also been shown to be very relaxing if done, in the evening. If you write down what you're going to do the day after, you de-stress, which is obviously very helpful if you're going to bed. Now, what doesn't work? Like, what does not make a good to-do list? What are the things that kills a to-do list? The number one thing is just that it's too many things, right? Like, I don't know if you've had this feeling or this experience where too many options is actually a bad thing. And I think like the most relevant example is Netflix, right? You sit down on the couch, you know that you want to watch a movie, but then you end up scrolling for 50 minutes, and in the end, you get frustrated because there's just too many options you can't choose, and then you watch nothing at all. Too many options creates decision fatigue in your brain. It can't prioritize on a set that big. So keeping a to-do list small, clean, and very relevant is just a very important aspect. It needs to be high quality. The other thing is that it can't be too abstract. It needs to be manageable tasks. You can't have a task that says get rich or get your life together. It needs to be more approachable. It needs to be something you can act on today. And that kind of brings it back to one of the perks of a to-do list, again, is if you have these bigger goals, you're forced to break them down, to be a bit more tactical about them, and to kind of formulate them into smaller tasks. And so I've been thinking a lot about this because I'm still at the very start of Aurelio. I'm still working on this daily to-do list, right? And so a lot of these decisions about how I will manage these qualities are still ahead of me. And I find in the same way, if you put something on your to-do list at night, and then, it's easier to do in the morning because you're in your mind, that's where you're heading anyway. I feel like when I have these questions and I need to come up with solutions, design-wise and code-wise, that support solving the problem I'm working on, starting to think about them in many different ways helps me just work the problem consciously and subconsciously. So I've been doing a lot of research, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about it here.